Ethan Harris checked the time on his phone for the third time in 5 minutes. 8:47 p.m. Too late. Lily would already be in her pajamas by now, probably sitting cross-legged on the couch with her favorite blanket, waiting for him to read one story that always turned into 3. His neighbor, Mrs. Donnelly, had promised to stay a little longer, but Ethan hated pushing his luck, or her kindness. He shut down his computer, slid his worn messenger bag over his shoulder, and stood just as laughter spilled down the hallway again, louder this time, sharper, unfiltered. Claire Montgomery. Even sober, she carried presence like gravity. Drunk, apparently, she carried chaos. Ethan stepped out of his cubicle just as she leaned against the wall, heels abandoned in one hand, champagne flute in the other. Her usually razor-sharp gaze was unfocused, her perfectly controlled posture softened into something almost fragile. This wasn't the woman who commanded boardrooms. This was the woman after the armor cracked. "Spreadsheet guy," she said again, squinting. "You're still here. That's admirable. Or tragic. Probably both," Ethan replied carefully. She laughed, then winced, pressing 2 fingers to her temple. "God, I should not have let them keep refilling my glass." "You shouldn't be alone right now," he said gently. She studied him, eyes lingering longer than professional courtesy allowed. "You always talk like that." "Like what?" "Like someone who doesn't want anything from me." The question landed heavier than he expected. "I just want to make sure you're okay," he said. That seemed to disarm her more than the champagne ever could. Outside, the night air sobered her slightly. Ethan helped her into the passenger seat, closing the door with care, like she might shatter if he didn't. As he drove, the city glided past, neon lights, late-night diners, couples laughing on sidewalks. "You have kids," Claire said suddenly. He glanced at her. "How do you? You keep a drawing in your desk." "A stick figure family." Very aggressive use of purple crayon. He smiled despite himself. "My daughter, Lily. She insists purple is a strong color." Claire nodded slowly. "Smart girl." The rest of the ride passed in companionable quiet, broken only by the hum of tires and the faint sound of Claire's breathing as she leaned back, eyes closed. When they reached her building, the doorman raised an eyebrow, but Ethan's steady presence shut down any questions before they could form. Inside the apartment, everything was immaculate. Too immaculate. Minimalist furniture, spotless counters, nothing personal except a single framed photo on the shelf. A younger Claire, smiling freely, arm around an older woman who looked proud and tired all at once. "My mother," Claire said, noticing his glance. Before things got complicated. She swayed slightly, and Ethan caught her elbow. "Easy," he murmured. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Intimate in a way neither had permission for. "I don't like being seen as weak," she said quietly. "Especially by people who depend on me." "I didn't see weakness," Ethan replied. "I saw someone who needed help." Her eyes shone, not with tears, but something close. She straightened, exhaling slowly. "Tomorrow, you'll come in. You'll do your job. And you won't look at me like you do right now." "How am I looking at you?" he asked. "Like I'm human." She turned away before he could answer. That night, Ethan lay awake long after Lily fell asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit. He stared at the ceiling, replaying every second, the way Claire's voice softened when she spoke about her mother, the trust in her eyes when she handed him her keys. This was dangerous territory. She was his boss. She was powerful. She existed in a world he only brushed up against. And yet, she'd needed him. Morning came too fast. Ethan packed Lily's lunch, tied her shoelaces, accepted a sleepy hug that smelled like shampoo and cereal. Life grounded him the way it always did. At the office, everything looked the same. Glass walls, polished floors, quiet ambition humming under the surface. Claire Montgomery entered exactly on time. Perfect. Untouchable. Except when her eyes met Ethan's. Just for a fraction of a second, something flickered there, recognition, tension, memory. She didn't look away. She walked straight toward him. "Mr. Harris," she said, voice cool, professional. "My office. Now." And as the door closed behind them, Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. She hadn't forgotten a single second. Part 2, she didn't pretend to forget. The door to Claire Montgomery's office closed with a soft, decisive click. The kind that sounded final. Ethan stood where he was, hands loosely at his sides, pulse hammering in his ears. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city behind her desk, sunlight glinting off glass and steel. Everything about the room screamed authority, clean lines, muted colors, no unnecessary warmth. Claire moved behind her desk but didn't sit. Instead, she leaned against it, arms crossed, eyes locked on him with a focus that made board members sweat. "Relax," she said finally. "If I were firing you, HR would already be here." That didn't help. "I'm not sure why I'm here," Ethan replied carefully. "Yes, you are." She pushed off the desk and walked closer, slow, deliberate. Not invading his space. Just close enough to remind him of last night. The champagne. The city lights. The way her voice had dropped when she said thank you. "I asked you to forget," she said. "You did," Ethan agreed. "And I intended to." Her lips pressed together. But you didn't forget," he said quietly. Something unreadable crossed her face, annoyance, maybe, or relief. "I didn't," she admitted. "And I don't like that." She turned away, pacing once before stopping at the window. "Do you know how many people work here, Ethan? Hundreds. Do you know how many of them would have taken photos? Called a friend? Sold a story?" She glanced back. "How many would have stayed because it might benefit them later?" Ethan held her gaze. "I didn't do any of that." "I know." Her voice softened despite herself. "That's the problem." Silence stretched again. Then she straightened, CEO mode snapping back into place like a shield. "This conversation never happened," she said. "Last night never happened. At work, we are exactly what we were before." "Understood," Ethan said, though his chest felt tight. "Good." She hesitated. "You can go." He turned toward the door. "Ethan," she added. He paused. "Thank you," she said, not as his boss. As a woman who meant it. The days that followed were strange. Claire didn't avoid him. She didn't favor him either. If anything, she became sharper, more precise, more demanding. His reports came back with tighter edits. Meetings felt more intense, her eyes lingering just a second too long when he spoke. No one else noticed, but Ethan did. At home, Lily sensed it too. "You look tired," she said one night, pushing peas around her plate. "Did someone yell at you?" He smiled faintly. "No, kiddo. Just thinking. About grown-up stuff." "Yeah." She nodded wisely. "That's always the hardest." A week later, everything changed again. A late meeting ran over. The office emptied out until only a handful of lights remained. Ethan gathered his things, ready to leave, when Claire's assistant appeared. "Ms. Montgomery asked if you could stay a moment." His stomach sank, but he nodded. This time, Claire was sitting behind her desk when he entered. Her heels were off, jacket draped. Over the chair. Not drunk. Not fragile. Just tired. "Sit," she said, gesturing. He did. "I'm breaking my own rule," she began. "Which I hate." "I'm not sure which rule that is," Ethan said. "The one about not blurring lines." He stayed silent. She exhaled. "I looked you up." He stiffened. "You mean public records," she clarified. "Your wife passed away 3 years ago. Car accident." The words still hit like a bruise. "I'm sorry," she added quickly. "I should have asked. I just needed to understand you." "You don't owe me an explanation," he said. "I know. But I want one anyway." She leaned forward. "You didn't help me that night because you were hoping for something. You helped because that's who you are." Ethan swallowed. "I didn't think it would matter this much." "It does," she said. "Because people like you don't cross my path often." The air between them grew heavy again, but this time, neither looked away. "This is where I set a boundary," Claire continued. "Nothing inappropriate. No secrets. No expectations." "And off the clock?" Ethan asked before he could stop himself. Her breath caught, just slightly. "That," she said carefully, "is complicated." He nodded. "Then we keep it simple." She studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" She asked. "Not as my employee. Not as my savior. As," he prompted. "As two people who survived things," she said softly. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a reminder to pick up Lily. "I can't tonight," he said honestly. "I figured," Claire replied. "Another time." He stood, and for the first time since that night, the tension eased into something warmer. Safer. As he reached the door, she spoke again. You didn't save me from trouble, she said. You reminded me I don't have to be alone in it. Ethan smiled. Anytime. And as he stepped back into the quiet hallway, one truth followed him like a promise. This wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning.